Come by afterwards and pick up your check, Josh. I have it here for you.
Does it include all the overtime pay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're live. Okay, great.
We good? Excellent, thank you. All right, welcome everybody to the April edition of the City of St. Charles School District Board of Education meeting. Bittersweet for me, but good things happening, good things happening. First of all, I do want to congratulate Ms. Ellen Zaire and Heidi Sigma for winning the school board elections. Wish you all nothing but great success in the next 3 years of your term, and I will be eagerly waiting on the sidelines to observe and see what goes on. So congratulations, and looking forward to having both of you continue to serve with us. As we always do at this time, if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, time for our superintendent comments. Dr. Seifert.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. I'm going to take my mask off so I can read my comments here and make sure everybody can hear me. So welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I just want to start off by saying thank you to our SCSD community for your support in passing and approving our Prop SCSD vote. 78.64, almost 80% yes. So we just so thankful. We are humbled, we're grateful, and we're excited. The time is now that I always talk about our work is essential in this district. And our projects are starting now, aren't they, Dr. Brazil? And you will see things start happening here very soon. And I said to the board earlier in our closed session that I believe that this yes vote and this great support truly is a huge sign of our community recognizing and seeing the work that our teachers and our staff did in obviously one of the most unprecedented times we've had in terms of this pandemic. And so kudos to our staff for all that they've done. I also want to say congratulations to Ms. Ellen Zaire. We're glad she's back with us. Ms. Heidi Sigma joining the team as well. And congratulations on winning both of the Board of Education seats. We're excited to continue to work with Ellen, and we welcome Heidi to the Board of Education. As I think you've already said, Josh, tonight is bittersweet. We're excited about our future, but we do say goodbye to a faithful leader, a servant, and somebody who I call a friend. It's our board president, Mr. Josh King. You can clap. That's good. Josh, I just want to say, on behalf of everybody, thank you for all that you've done. And the SCSD is truly a better place because of you and your leadership. We've got a couple of presents for you and some cards that you can probably open on your own time, but we want to make sure that you just have a token of our appreciation. And one more applause, please, for Mr. Josh King.
Thank you, thank you.
We're also proud, if you haven't seen this bullet point, but the SCSD is also proud to announce that it was named a recipient of the 2021 Healthy Workplace Award from Community Strong SCC, presented via live stream on March 31st. This is also on our website. Community Strong recognized 8 local employers as recipients of the first annual St. Charles County Workplace Wellness Awards. That's pretty cool. So we can clap for that too. This award was created to honor St. Charles County employers who advocate for healthy habits in the workplace, require documented adherence to a stringent list of workplace wellness initiatives. SCSD is honored to be recognized as an organization that takes the health of our students, staff, and community seriously. And obviously, Dr. Brazil is a big part of that. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, just that I was very pleased to be part of the initial effort to get St. Charles County Community Strong going. That organization is ending, but the Chamber of Commerce for Greater St. Charles is going to take on the Healthy Workplace Awards, so that should continue going even though SC Strong is going away.
Thank you, Dr. Brazil. Spring sports are going strong. Good luck to our Pirates and Warriors. I actually was out at the pitch. Is that me? Am I? Okay.
No, that's still me.
Okay. I actually was out at I think they called the soccer pitch this afternoon. The Warriors and the Pirates were playing varsity girls soccer, and it's also always a great battle when the two come together to compete. So our spring sports are really going strong. We just had some signings of some of our state champion wrestlers. Both of our state champions just signed with Central Methodist, I believe, University, so that's exciting to go on and play and continue their educational career and wrestling career at the next level. Just a quick note that standardized testing will take place this year. Plans are being made now for all students in the designated grades and classes to take the test in person. We've talked about this before, but just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that we say kudos to our staff for preparing our students and setting up all the logistics to make this happen. Although we don't feel like in-person mandated standardized testing is necessary this year to conduct at this time, since we are still navigating through a pandemic, we will be using the data as another tool baseline to gauge where our students are at so that we can meet their learning needs the best we can. I want to continue to knock on wood, but I'm happy to report that our overall COVID numbers are continuing to be as low as they've been since we started tracking the numbers since in August. We are also excited about the work we've done in helping facilitate the vaccine distribution for our SCSD staff. I'm happy to report that our entire staff has had multiple opportunities to receive the vaccine and at least have their first dose in at this time, and second shots are on their way. Ms. McClure, did you want to add anything to that? Because you've done a great job of help facilitating all that. As always, and I end my comments with, I want to continue to encourage and thank the Board of Education, staff, students, parents, and community members for all their continued work, support, and dedication to the SCSD. And I always continue to say, we are essential. Now is the time. We're going to keep pushing forward. We're going to keep staying masked up. We're going to still keep being as socially distanced as possible, and we're going to finish this year strong. And as always, we are SCSD United. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Seifert. Appreciate it. All right. 4.04, Board Communications. It's been a pretty quiet month, again, knock on wood. So we don't have any board communications. 4.05, audience comments, we do. I'd like to invite Brendan Kearns up to the microphone, please.
Let me read the.
Oh, that's right.
Read the disclaimer.
After.
Yeah. All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to the established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify himself or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and or length of comment, and at the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators. It's been so long since I've read that, I didn't.
Brendan, please come up. Sorry about that.
On behalf of SCEA, I would like to congratulate Ellen Zare and Heidi Sikma on their election to the Board of Education. We would also like to thank Josh Keene for devoting his time to serving our community on the Board of Education. For the recent success of Prop SCSD, the SCEA would like to thank all staff and community members who volunteered or voted to make this bond issue a success. The projects will be vital in keeping our schools functioning and our students learning to the best of their abilities. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to 4.06. May I have a motion to amend or adopt the agenda, please?
I move we amend the agenda, like always, to remove items 7.06, resignations and retirements, from the consent agenda so we can have a brief discussion.
All right, and just want to make sure, yeah, that has to be done. I just want to make sure that that's done before we reorganize the board. But, so then I need a second to take out 706, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Then we do need a motion, please, to approve the amended agenda, please.
I move we approve the amended agenda.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. 5.01, certification of April 6th election results. Donna, is there anything that needs to be read?
I believe, I don't think we only have to move that it's,
Okay. Then we do need a motion, please.
we just have to move to,
Because there's one of the parts has like a,
that's
that's the
on
next one.
Dissolving the board.
Okay.
I move to certify the April 6, 2021 election results as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.02.
Okay, this,
No, because the consent agenda is after, because it's new business. So the new board has to take care of new business.
so you're still acting president. You can read it or the
Oh,
vice president.
I don't have my computer on me.
Oh, I've got
So
it.
if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Sorry.
Missouri law requires the Board of Education to elect new officers each year in April. Board officers, wait a minute. I thought maybe we would have sworn in sworn in Heidi. Never mind. Board officers are elected during the reorganization portion of tonight's meeting, and they will serve until April of 2022. To accomplish this, the board will adjourn sine die after allowing the currently seated board to complete all scheduled old business. This will ensure that new board members are not asked to vote on issues for which they have not been fully prepared. By adjourning sine die or without day, the board as it currently exists will be adjourned for the last time. During this adjournment, newly elected board members will be administered the oath of office by the current board secretary or designee, thereby excusing retired board members. A new president of the Board of Education, as well as other board officers will then be elected. While adjourned, sine die, the secretary of the board or his/her appointee will chair the first portion of the meeting. The chair will take nominations for the office of president. All nominations will then be voted on in the order received. Should any nominee receive votes from a majority of the board, the election process will cease and that person will be seated as president. The person elected president will then continue the organizational meeting, and the remaining officers will be elected. After all officers have been elected, the new board will reconvene the regular meeting and begin scheduled new business. Although this process may require a little additional time to implement, this procedure will provide for an orderly transition between the existing and newly elected boards of education. So,
So why don't you be the secretary? And swear in the two new people, right?
no, first we have to do a nomination. So,
Okay. I move to dissolve the 2020-2021 school board in order to reorganize.
is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah. I was just on a roll.
Okay.
You're out of here. No, I'm sorry.
Once again, thank you, everybody. Just appreciate all of you, and I know the district is in great hands with everybody, so thank you all.
Thank you, John.
We'll clap you out. Okay, we're continuing with the reorganization of the board. Do I have nominations for president?
Now, we have the oath of office next, for the two, because they have to be
Oh,
part
we
of
did,
it.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
okay. We're ready for the item 6.01, the oath of office for newly elected board members. But I think, Kelly, do you do that? But I don't want, you know what, I don't want you to have to get up. We can do that.
So the two candidates,
And you can both do it at the same time, just repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear that I will, Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of school director
the duties of school director
in and for the school district of the city of St. Charles,
and in for the school district of St. Charles,
County of St. Charles, State of Missouri,
County of St. Charles, State of Missouri,
to the best of my ability according to the law.
best of my ability according to the law.
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Oh,
Is it okay?
yeah.
Give her the best pose.
I
You
was
might take your mask.
smiling.
Yes. Can we give it another applause? Congratulations.
Okay, well, now we're ready for item 6.02, back on the agenda. Do we have nominations for the office of president of the board?
I'd like to nominate Marita Malone for school board president.
On the first motion, we'll do, do
Oh,
you have a second?
okay.
Do we have a second on the first motion? Okay, then that one does not move. And you have a motion, Ellen?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Marita Malone for school board president.
All right, do we have a second? That
We're
one
running
doesn't.
out of members.
Do we have another nomination? Do we have a second? All right, that one fails. Oh, working our way down. Well, board, this is unprecedented. We need a president. Is there one of the, let's see, of the board, is there a consensus of a board member? We don't seem to have one yet.
I'd like to say that I don't feel like I have served long enough on the board to know what I'm doing. So I appreciate the nomination, but I would not second the nomination.
I will second the nomination for Donna.
Are there any other nominations? Thank you. Then we need to vote on Donna Towers as president of the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Well, thank you, I think. Thank you. Let's take nominations for vice president. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Rita.
Thank you.
Do I have nominations for board secretary?
I nominate Ellen.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Congratulations, Alan. And now nominations for board treasurer.
I nominate Mike.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mike. His name now goes on the checks. Okay. Well, I think when we redo seating, maybe so that Marita and I can kind of sit next to each other. No. I mean, next time. And then next time you'll have a shorter trip. You want to just leave the seating the way it is for right now?
Yeah.
Give me there's too much power there. All right. We are at item 7.01, the consent agenda, with items, where was that? Item 706 was removed. So,
I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, item 8.01 is the item that we removed, which, Ellen, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, I'd like to speak briefly. I noticed that there are 6 resignations this month, and I would like to talk about one of those resignations, not identifying the teacher that is resigning, but I feel it's a terrible blow to our district, her resignation. She's a 15-year veteran of the school district, and she's a graduate from St. Charles West, and her parents still live in St. Charles, and she's only in her 30s, so she has many years of teaching ahead of her, and she's been named Teacher of the Year twice. She serves on numerous committees, both within the district and nationwide. She is universally loved by her coworkers, her students, and their parents. She is resigning to go to teach at Clayton. She has no connections to Clayton. And CSIP goal number 2 is to recruit, attract, develop, and retain highly qualified staff. So we missed this one. And are we keeping track of teacher turnover? Yes. Oh, okay. Every year you keep a running total of percent. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, well then, we need to have a motion to approve item 8.01, which was the resignations and retirements. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the resignations and retirements.
Do we have a second? All those in favor? We need-
Aye.
I don't know what's with our board tonight. We're very hesitant. Yes, okay. That has been approved. We're at item 9.01. Program review of community education. This one is, who's doing that one? the adult education?
Dr. Steve Smith is going to do the adult and community education. Steve is the Assistant Director of Lewis and Clark Career Center, and
You
he
have to take your-
oversees.
Can you?
Yeah,
yes,
is
thank
that
you.
better?
Yeah,
Sorry, Dr. Steve Smith is our Assistant Director of the Lewis and Clark Career Center, and he directly oversees the adult and community ed program, so he's going to present to you our review.
Good evening. Can
good
you
evening.
hear me? All right. So good evening. So adult and community education, in an effort to address personal and professional interests and needs in the St. Charles community, we do offer a wide variety of classes and programs through adult and community ed. These two key areas of services offered are adult ed courses and certificate programs, and then workforce development initiatives. With our adult education, we have close to 300 adult learning classes each semester, and that continues to rise. They are offered vocational and non-vocational opportunities in various course categories. Our biggest one right now is emergency medical technician. We're looking to expand that, get into some of the higher level certifications with that. We do have approximately 30 new courses that are added each semester. I'll kind of skip down to workforce development in collaboration with state's Missouri One Start program, which is funded through the Department of Economic Development. The district is one of 16 local educational agencies across the state that administers training assistance funds awarded to business and industry that applies for and meets certain grant requirements. And so in that respect, customized training program assists with training, retraining, and employee development. The district is paid a 15% administrative fee for the total grant awards received by the client companies, and we currently work with 11 manufacturing companies to assist with those initiatives. So our program goals and objectives are to address community-wide personal and professional educational needs and interests, provide a variety of quality, affordable educational programs, to be a premier training provider for local workforce business, and to strengthen and build community partnerships. So I'll focus now on the adult and community ed part. Let me look at our, so we've got some facts in here, and I don't know, was that part of? Oh, okay, yeah. The ones, I think they're titled Fast Facts from 2019, 2020, for the past 2 years. They look like this. Yep, that'll work. All right, so you can see 2019, we were moving, for the 1920 school year, we were moving along, last year, in late 2019 into early 2020, we were at record pace in terms of revenue being brought in, to the point where we even decided to cut back our youth programming, primarily because we had lost a lot of interest to other area facilities that were receiving grants. We were not in a position to be offering those. We lost revenue, that we were actually losing money on those. And so we focused our efforts on vocational training, which is in need right now, and we've seen that shoot up. We've had to add instructors in HVAC, machining, welding. We've added several courses in welding, and they fill up as quickly as we put them out there. The EMT courses, phlebotomy, those are our big ones right now. You can see in terms of revenue, EMT is our biggest one by revenue. Top 10 classes, some of our non-vocational classes like Excel, Seniors Best, yoga, things like that. Although we do service anybody in St. Charles County or in this specific area, about 47% of the students from 2019 came from the 63301 and 03 area, zip codes, I'm sorry. And you can see our registrations were pretty steady, right around the high 900s to 1000s as we went through spring of 18 and the fall of 19. So if you wouldn't mind going to 2020 now. Thanks. So again, you see the trend continuing. Now, COVID did, as with many other things, we took a hit from that. The class cancellations that we had to have, even now we have restricted enrollment to keep social distancing in play, but we are still seeing our revenue get back up to pre-COVID levels in terms of interest in our classes, revenue. So, we took a hit, but we're coming back from it. There are a lot of people that are looking for jobs. They're looking for job training right now. It's a big state initiative, and we are implementing that to the best of our ability. You're starting to see a few more people come in from surrounding areas, and it's been pretty successful so far. The people that work in adult ed and they're in the office on a daily basis, they really do all the legwork. There's 3 of them primarily in there: Stephanie Collins, Mary Ellman, Sarah Steinbrugge. They really do all of the work associated with this. They're out in the community, they're talking to businesses, they're getting people here, they're marketing, they've looked at new ways to attract people to get them in here. They really do an excellent job of really working hard for the community and in the district. I think that about covers it. Yeah.
So 63303 also is Francis Howell, isn't it? School district?
Yes.
So what percentage of St. Charles school district students are going to Lewis and Clark?
To Lewis and Clark or adult ed?
No. Okay, this is adult ed.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
adult
I'm
and
sorry.
community
Yeah,
education.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. I was thinking Lewis and
No,
Clark.
I
Okay,
confuse myself
All right.
sometimes too, so,
okay,
He wears both
no
hats.
problem.
okay.
Are there any other questions?
To that point, Marita, I just wanted to point out, Steve's done a great job. We've transitioned this under, it's obviously housed at Lewis and Clark, but it was a little bit of a separate office and situation, and then when we had a retirement there, we kind of put it under and said, hey, Steve, guess what? You're gonna have some extra duties here. And he's done a great job of transitioning the program and continue to keep it very successful. So hats off to Steve Smith for that. So.
And if I could, Dr. Seifert, I'd just point out that adult and community ed is self-sustaining, and so they charge tuition for their adult post-secondary classes, and then the workforce development customized training that Steve referenced is a grant basis. So if the grant pays for these opportunities for manufacturing facilities, then we provide the coordination for that. If the state doesn't fund that grant, then we just don't do the work.
I'd also like to point out, just as a district as a whole, all the buildings in the district, because we do use City of St. Charles School District facilities, they've been more than welcoming to us using their facilities, coming in, and I don't know that it's always been that way in the past, and so we have a great working relationship with everybody and all of our buildings. They welcome us in there, and they've really opened up the buildings to us to allow us to facilitate these classes. It makes it a lot easier when we're scheduling those things, so it's been great.
And then all of our employees also are able to have a discount with adult and community ed
Yes.
as well for all of the classes.
Yeah, we actually have a few people from maintenance right now that are in our welding classes, so it's been nice. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. I need a motion to approve the program review. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Item 9.02, this is a program review for financial planning. Is this Charles?
Yes, it is. And so this is just your, as a board, your annual review of your own policy, DFA 2, which is about what we do with revenues from investments and use of surplus funds. And so one of the stipulations in board policy, and it comes from best practice and MSBA's recommendation, is that we just review it annually so that the board's aware of what we do with our funds when we do have extra money for a short period of time. So for your information, reminder, and maybe for Heidi's education, you'll remember that about 76% of our funds are local, which means the vast majority of our revenue comes in as property tax payments in December and January. And so January, at the end of January, is generally high tide for our funds, and then the remainder of the year we're dropping all the way until we get to mid-December again. And so state revenue comes in equally across the board month to month. Federal revenues only come in after we've spent them, but are still more standard. So because of the oddity of local coming in all at one time, we do, beginning in January, do try and layer out some short-term investments to gain as much investment revenue as possible until we need those funds. But it's all very short-term because we will have spent it all within a year. And so we're not able to buy anything long-term. But as you look at your own policy here, and it's in board docs, there are really three main goals. The first being safety of the funds. And so we get a little help with that because the state requires that our funds be collateralized by anybody with whom we're investing, meaning they've got to buy securities to back whatever amount we have with them. So safety is our first goal. Then liquidity, meaning being able to use it when we need it, and then the yield. So some investors, again, really highlight yield, and they want to go hard and fast into things like commercial paper or into the stock market, into specific funds. And we don't do any of that because of the first goal, safety. And so the policy also lines out a variety of things, everything from making sure there's no conflict of interest to our internal controls and what we do with our cash. But essentially, it names me and the Director of Accounting, which we just changed to Director of Business Services, as your investment officers. But I'll tell you that we do rely also on advice from our bond underwriters at Stifel, from our bankers at United Missouri Bank, and at the Missouri Securities Investment Program, so that we get some common wisdom around these things. And we're really, that's about the safety and liquidity of items. And so Diane Clubb has always done a cash flow analysis before we make those investments. Even particularly like this is a good time to talk about it because we'll be, before the end of this fiscal year, selling $50 million worth of bonds that the taxpayers just approved for us to sell. We'll layer those out, and those will be in longer-term investments because obviously we won't be able to spend it all at once. So we'll look to gain a little bit of interest over time. But again, kind of projecting when we'll need that money so the liquidity is there as well. I think that's the long and short of it, unless you have specific questions about how we invest.
Do you have any questions?
I might just say our primary depository is UMB Bank. It has been for a long time, but we are required to bid that every 5 years. And so we're actually coming up in the fall, we'll bid banking services at that point. And then that's a non-exclusive agreement. So anytime the Missouri Securities Investment Program, which is a pool of all public entities in the state of Missouri, anytime their rates beat UMB, we'll move some money over there. And we typically, we'll ask UMB about bond funds, but they typically don't want that much money. They don't want to mess with collateralizing $50 million. And so we'll put that almost exclusively with MOSIP and then just move it back over to our accounts as needed.
One thing you might point out that I wasn't aware of until I asked you, and that is when you were talking about the banks, that for the school bonds or investments, banks have to secure all of it, not just the FDIC.
Right, so FDIC, ever since the New Deal, has had some limit. It's currently $250,000 that they insure every account for. Ours are insured for the full amount that are in them effectively, because the UMB has to buy collateral in other securities, so that if UMB goes bankrupt tomorrow, that our money is safe.
Good to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any questions? Do I have a motion to approve? Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes. Under new business, item 10.01, we need to select a delegate for the MSBA. Last year, well, it was Josh.
Volunteer if you'll have me. I'm interested in
Second.
MSBA.
Second. In fact, Ellen, as I looked at this, and in my head, I was saying, gosh, you were the alternate last year. Let's just see if we can just move you up.
Yeah, I'm interested in being the delegate. I might eat my words, but, you know, so I'll.
I think you'll
I'll learn.
enjoy it. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't, unless they'll have it.
Well, I think everybody's got to do it a couple of times.
Yeah.
But that's, okay, so do we have a motion to elect Ellen Zare as the MSBA delegate? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Now we need to have an alternate.
I elect Heidi.
Yeah, I was the alternate last year,
Last year.
and so, yeah.
Definitely something you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, congratulations, Heidi, Ellen. You are our MSBA delegates. Under item 10.03, but I don't think we need to have another delegate. This is just an information one. You're already on it. And this is their last year for the association.
Right, so this is our last house in that subdivision, and so we will thankfully be absolved of our responsibility to run the Homeowners Association.
And
They'll be on their own.
So Laurie is on it for the. Well, so we don't have to have two. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Laurie. We'll have you for the Homeowners Association. Okay, we're down to our favorite part of the program.
Yes, so just a quick informational item. Donna and Mike will need to get with you sometime in the next few days, and I'll have Kelly coordinate that, but we'll need to get your names onto the bank cards for signatures on checks and things. Oh, you do? All right, so check in with Kelly before you leave.
That gives us access to the funds. When are we going to?
Right.
All right, kidding. Never
So
mind.
I just wanted to give you, before I actually get into the finances, an update on two bills that you've seen things about for quite a while. House Bill 248, which is the craziest thing, and if you know what I think about the way they're doing things in Jeff City, it's not an understatement for me to say this is the craziest bill so far. House Bill 248, as amended and passed in the House, would limit the assessed value of property increase to inflation or 5%, whichever is lower. So in the last 10 years, it's been inflation. Probably the last 20 years, it's been inflation. This year, inflation is about 2.1%. We already have, by the way, on the opposite side, on the tax collection side of the House, a similar limitation that's been in place since the 1980s. So I don't think that's necessary to begin with. But one of the amendments to the bill added that limit, hard cap of either inflation or 5%. They also added a one-time reduction of 20% on all residential property across the state. Now, ironically, this bill affects only $3 million in a $27 billion state budget. For local taxing entities, like cities and fire districts and libraries, and particularly school districts, because we levy the lion's share of property tax, the fiscal note on this bill is $880 million to $2.3 billion in lost revenue were this to be implemented. So I ran just a couple of look and sees at ours. We have, just again, a reminder for you, about $1.1 billion in assessed value in our district. $652 million of that is in residential property, so 60%. Let's just round numbers, let's say 60%. If that gets reduced by 20%, that means that number drops to $521 million and would reduce our revenue by $5.7 million in our budget. So a pretty substantial difference. However, if you want the long version of this, you can come to my school finance class I teach in the spring at Lindenwood. But anyway, however, you know, I think from my pontificating for these last 11 years, that as assessed value goes up, our operating levy goes down. They work inversely, proportionally. So there is no mechanism to keep that from happening in this bill. So if you take 20% of our residential value away, what's going to happen to our property tax rate? It's going to clank up. We are limited by what's called the highest voter-approved rate ceiling. Our ceiling rate is 488. We're at 441 right now. We would go almost to that ceiling to make up that amount of revenue. However, there are about 75% of school districts across the state that are already pretty close to their ceiling or at their ceiling. They would not be able to go up. And so, again, this is, and I wasn't trying to be smart alecky, but I was telling the boss, I think this bill is all about willful ignorance. Because, and we're all ignorant about something, so I don't mean that to be like a bad word. They just don't understand what they're doing. But it's coupled with a reluctance or maybe an outright rejection of being willing to learn what the consequences of what they're doing is. They don't want to know because they don't trust the people who can tell them, which are the assessors and school business officials. They don't trust those people because they think we're just bureaucrats, cogs in the wheel. So whatever happens with this, I hope some common sense prevails in the Senate. And I think there are a couple of senators that are keyed in on this, so hopefully it won't go anywhere. That's pretty crazy. Senate Bill 55, which is the public ed destroyer, is also still out there, but still holding at either 16 or 17 votes because they haven't brought it back up for a vote again, and they need 18 to pass it. So keep watching for that, but Senator O'Laughlin from Shelbina, who is the sponsor, is now trying to whip votes by telling people that it will not really affect much of rural Missouri, so they ought to go ahead and vote for it. It would probably dramatically affect rural Missouri. She just doesn't, again, understand how, and it's all about where the funding goes. So watch those bills. If the St. Charles County delegation are really good, fine men and women, which I've told you before, but they don't typically support our public schools, I still would encourage you to contact them and let them know about your opposition to these bills. They're dangerous changes to state law that would have lasting impacts.
To that note, Dr. Brazil, Ellen, you contacted,
Yeah.
did you want to add to that?
Contacted Hannigan, but I thought it was supposed to come up for the third reading today. Did that not happen?
I think they perfected it, but I can check really quick.
Did it pass out of the House? But, yeah, the state legislators are anti-public school, and
Let's see what happened.
Thank you for contacting them, Ellen.
it will be either today or tomorrow.
So it is, it has been perfected and referred to the Fiscal Review Committee of the House. So it'll come back for one more vote if it gets through fiscal review. You're right. So, on to what you really pay me to do, which is finances. But what I asked Alex to pull up this Quick Start Summer Bond Projects. You've got a copy of it in your financial report if you want to pull it up. This is a list, and I'll admit right off the bat that this is an aggressive list, but it's a list of about $7 million of projects that we intend to try and complete before school begins in the fall. So it really is a quick start to this new bond issue. We're anticipating that we'll sell bonds in June. These projects would all be underway by and large by then. Excuse me, but we would have funding available to pay for them in a timely manner. And so I just wanted to review some of the things we're doing there. Most of these projects will come back to you for your approval next month. There may be a few that lag into June depending on start dates, but you'll see as Kelly builds the agenda for next month, you'll have an item outside of the consent agenda that will put all of these specific projects as we have them bid. The only one that is currently bid is that one in the middle of the page for Harris for HVAC replacement across the whole district and then interior and exterior LED lighting. That project had a budget of $2.2 million. We came in just slightly over $2 million on that one. So that's a good sign for us going into this bidding season. Other things that we're looking at, we're going to propose as a package to bid interior and exterior LED lighting at Benton, Hardin, Null, and St. Charles High. Stadium turf at both High and West. Stadium lighting at High with the stadium lighting at West as an alternate if the bid comes in well. And then some roof work at St. Charles West and at the operations building at 3800 West Clay, and building tuck pointing also at St. Charles West. And I think that pretty much covers the major projects. There's a couple of other small things like we're very aware we have way too much humidity in the library at Blackhurst and in the band room at Jefferson. And so those are really small projects in terms of dollars, and they're things that they're things we don't want to delay until we get into bigger projects in those buildings. Just because it tends to just be a nuisance at Jefferson. At Blackhurst, it could be really significantly damaging to the library materials. And then the fun one on the list, to me at least, is at Lincoln. We're going to rebuild their playground up in what was the backyard of that acre lot that we've purchased right next door to them and reconfigure their asphalt. But as I say, this is a pretty aggressive list. So in August, if I have a hairstyle more like Jason's, and we're rushing right down to the last day before we start school, you'll know why. So I hope by next month to be able to give you a timeline that's kind of plotted out by our architect of the other major projects, when we'll be tackling those. Harris HVAC was the only project that was pre-engineered all the way down to the specifications of the project. And our mechanical engineers, FSG, just said, hey, can we take the chance and go ahead and do the specs and assume if it passes, then we can already have it bid. If it doesn't pass, we'll just eat the cost of doing the specifications. Everything else, we now have to start with specifications because now we know that we are going to actually do the projects.
I'm glad you see you're being aggressive, but the LED lighting, that's going to be saving us money.
Yes. So the LED lighting upgrades, as we get through them, will begin to immediately save us some money. And really, I've just always felt like it's important once we've gotten approval from the public to not get in a rush, but to as quickly as is reasonable, start showing them we really are going to do what we said we would do. Yeah. And so these are projects that either we can take advantage of some cooperative bidding and still see what multiple sources would cost us, or that we can get the bids turned around fast enough that we can actually get them done over the summer.
We don't have a lot of visitors in the schools now, but I tell you, alone, those LED lights will make a huge difference. Like, I mean, it's a big difference.
Well, in this building, if we were all quiet, you could hear these lights buzz. Every office and every.
It's a lovely
So
buzz all day long.
it's all, nobody in this building thinks that they're going to be excited about the new extra light, but they're really excited to lose the buzz. Okay, so on to the financial report in principle here. The healthcare trust continues to perform very well. We're still in that $3.1 million range. We had a slightly higher than usual, but fairly typical month on medical, same on drugs. So we're in good shape on the healthcare. On the next sheet, you see month end for March 2021, and I only circled one number. We did receive during March $1.9 million in federal revenue, and I only circle that because that comes in, as I say, kind of only after we've spent it. So the federal government, bless them, they print money and send it out like they have it, but if they're sending it to us, they require us to either have already spent the funds or spend them within 3 days of when we get them, or they start wanting interest back. And so we always just wait until we have spent the funds and then request it. So this is money coming from federal programs like Title I and also from school-age special education. And that made the difference so that we really were only about $1 million down from the beginning balance to the end for the month. Local revenue has really slowed down as we're back to just receiving sales tax receipts on that line. All of the property tax has primarily been paid. Year end, on the next sheet, you'll see we started the year $33.9 million. I circled a couple of things. Total revenues for the year so far are almost to $82 million. That's getting really close to what we anticipate receiving. So we still have federal revenues coming. We still have some sales tax money coming as local revenue, and we'll still have some state money. But we're getting pretty close. That's about 85% probably of what we'll gain for the whole year. But down on total expenditures, you can see we're only at $65.9 million there. The biggest majority of what's left to spend there is in salaries. And you will remember, you won't see it until June, but this coming month in May, we pay out a lot of money. And then again in June, we pay out a lot of money to the 10-month employees that do not receive checks in July. So that's kind of the tail of the tape there. And then you can see on the final page, we've made a few adjustments to the budget, but the projected ending fund balance is still around 22.6% going into the month of April. What questions might you have?
I have a tangential question. Are there any properties within the city limits or the district limits that are currently in TIF?
Yes.
Yes.
So that does impact us every year. So at one point we had 3 TIFs because Bass Pro was in a TIF, that whole shopping center there. That is out now and is on the tax rolls. So we have 2 big TIFs, Streets of St. Charles, south of 5th Street at I-70, and then University Commons, which is Schnucks and everything there with the new post office and all that across from Lindenwood. And those both have significant periods of time to run. So we do receive a little bit of tax revenue on those. The way a TIF is structured, we receive payments on what the value of the property was when the TIF began. So the value of, for instance, Streets of St. Charles, I just kind of happen to know this off the top of my head, was $6 million just for the flat ground, nothing on it. Now it's valued at something north of $220 million. And so that growth, and that's in actual market value of the property. So you'd have to drop it back to assessed, which is about a third of that, $70 million. But we're losing out on the taxes that would have been paid on that $70 million in added assessed value. The same on a slightly smaller scale with University Commons there across from Lindenwood. The way that that's supposed to work is that a TIF brings jobs or brings people because of the jobs, And so then they pay taxes in other ways. And in its best sense, that's what happens. My favorite example is the Wentzville GM assembly plant. There's never been a nickel of sales tax paid by GM on that plant or on the personal property in the plant. But they have a lot of people employed and associated industries and a lot of people that are paying residential property tax to the Wentzville School District or buying things in the district that create sales tax. That's the best intent of a TIF. Where I tend to agree with our county executive, a lot of times TIF is only used because we're afraid if we don't give them the TIF, they'll move to St. Peter's, or they'll move from St. Peter's to O'Fallon, or they'll move to, someplace else. And so then we're really not gaining new jobs, we're just supplanting what was already going to happen.
Am I correct in thinking that with some of the new development, and I honestly don't know where the development is at this point with Bangor Island and the expansion to the city, the streets of St. Charles, are they looking at doing some of that without TIFs?
Yes, so down to the east of Straits of St. Charles and then extending south along the river, the city of St. Charles is pushing this new development called River Point. River Point, yes. So they have at least verbally told us that they are not intending to use TIF as a means to gain people's attention or get developers involved because there is a strong enough demand for that. What they have not said that they won't use is another a mechanism called Chapter 100 or Chapter 353, which both kind of operate similarly, but they're related to personal property. So that's what the city of St. Peter's used on our Amazon warehouse. The Amazon warehouse out here on 370 sits in our district. It's right on the line. That's in the city of St. Peter's, but in our school district. The building itself, they pay property tax on. Everything in the building that Amazon owns, or that Amazon uses, is actually owned by the city of St. Peter's using Chapter 100.
Yep.
And so by the time it would go onto the tax rolls, it will have depreciated to zero value and been replaced by new property that they will do the same thing with. And so that may get used on the River Point development to attract some people, but they're telling us that they're not going to use TIF.
So the warehouses in that Premier 370 warehouse section, that's the St. Charles School District.
Well, everything at Amazon coming east.
Yeah.
From Amazon going west, that's all in Zumwalt.
So, so we get property, you said we get the property tax on that, but not the,
We do on most of it. I mean,
But it's
so
TIF.
the city of St. Peter's has been very aggressive, probably more so than St. Charles actually, in offering development deals. But with that area, they have been, that warehouse was constructed and is not on a TIF, but everything in it is owned by the city of St. Peter's, so we're not getting any personal property tax out of there.
but we are getting property tax already from those?
Yes, on most of the buildings themselves.
Oh, okay.
Now, on the north side of 370, at the same kind of location, the city of St. Peter's has been wanting to develop residential property between 370 and Lake 370 Park. But that area is in the flood zone and is not protected by the levees. And so the county executive has been able to successfully block that thus far. And so they actually don't even have utilities out to what would be the section in our district. But there's a potential that might get developed at some point. But
They better
because
build it
of
up or put it on stilts.
you say, but because of the proximity to the park, they don't want to put manufacturing or warehousing there. They want residential.
So north of 370, that's not our school district.
Yes, it is. It is. We go north of 370 through about half of Lake 370 Park, and then we come east to about the easternmost side of the soccer fields that are underwater about half the time.
Yeah.
And then we drop way back in, and that's where we come back in down to Governor's Place that is so close to west, but is in the Orchard Farm District.
Any other questions
Thank you,
about?
Charles.
Financial report, do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Charles. All right, item 12.01, do I have a motion to recess back to closed session? Do I have a second? All those in favor of going back to closed session?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. So, I forgot his name. Oh, Alex,